Hi everyone. So here's a little language problem. See if you guys can solve it. So up here there are 8 sentences in Spanish. You don't need to know Spanish to do this problem. Actually, it's better if you don't know Spanish. This is meant for people who don't have a high level of Spanish. So here are 8 sentences in Spanish, and here are the translations in English, except the order is mixed up. So all you have to do is write the number of the corresponding English translation next to the Spanish sentence. So if you want to try it yourself, pause the video here and then we'll go over the solution. Okay, so let's go over the answer. So how could you start going about this problem? Well, the first thing that you may notice is that every one of these sentences has this word dicho, every single one. Just like every single sentence in English has the word told. So you may conclude correctly that dicho means told. Then you may also have noticed that each sentence in Spanish has a short 2-letter word that starts with the letter H. Just like in English, each sentence has a word that starts with H, which is some conjugation of the verb to have. Okay? So in English, there are 2 conjugations. We have here, and then there's has. Just like in the Spanish sentences, we see there's this HE, which is pronounced E, and then you have this, which is pronounced A. So these 2, A and A, must correspond to have and has. Which is which? Well, let's see if we can figure it out. What are some other things you may have noticed? In Spanish, you may have seen the word no a couple of times, 3 times. And then in English, you may have noticed that there's the word not that appears also 1, 2, 3 times. So why don't we start with those? We can say that these sentences 2, 3, and 7 correspond to these 3. So let's see. Well, actually, that may not be the best place to start because they all have the same form of the verb to have, which is a, but well, let's see if that corresponds here. Has, and has. Okay, so we can conclude maybe that a means has. Okay, so all right, let's go from there. What else can we notice? All right, we see this word already. Already appears 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And what do we have in the Spanish? Well, we have this word ya, which also appears 4 times. So that may be a correlation. So let's look at those sentences that have already in ya. So 1, 2 use a, and 2 of them use a. So that should mean that 2 of them use have, and 2 of them use has. Which is the case? Have, has. Okay, so we've definitely confirmed that a is has and a is have. So now let's try to figure out what these other words mean in Spanish, like this me, le, lo, se. Let's figure out what those mean. So why don't we start with the let's go with the already sentences, so the ones that have ya. 2 of them have me. Okay, so me, literally it's spelled the same way we'd spell me in English. So let's see if there's any correlation there. So I've already told it to myself, so that's kind of like me. She's already told me. I've already told it to him. He has already told it to. He has already told her. So there's no me-related things in these 2, but we do see that these 2 me's may correlate to myself and me. So we can say me may equal me or myself. Okay. So let's go back to these 2, the ones that have me and already. So sentence 1 and sentence 5. And then those should correlate to this one, ya me lo he dicho and ya me ha dicho. So we already know that A is have and A is has. So this ya me lo he dicho must be the one that has have. So this has to be 1. So we can go ahead and do that. And that means that the other one, ya me ha dicho, has to be number 5. Okay, so now what does this tell us? Well, let's start with 5. Ya means already, me means me, ha means has, and dicho means told. But the English word has this extra she that the Spanish doesn't. So maybe it's the case that in Spanish you don't have to say the initial subject pronoun. So we can just keep that in the back of our heads. And now let's look back at this one. Ya me lo he dicho. I have already told it to myself. So we know that the me means the myself. Ya is the already. He dicho is have told. So we're missing the I and we're missing the it. Well, from sentence 5, we realize that maybe in Spanish you don't have to say the initial pronoun. So the only thing that's missing is the it. So we may be able to conclude that lo means it, okay? So let's see if we can go from there, okay? Let's look at the other 2 sentences that have ya. So, ya se lo he dicho, ya le ha dicho. So we already got 1 and 5. So now let's look at 6 and 8. So I have already told it to him. He has already told her. So again, this is going to be easy for us because one of them has have, one of them has. So we know right away that this is going to be the one that has. So that's going to be 8. And this is going to be the one that has have. So that's going to be 6. So now from these conclusions, let's see what we can learn. Let's look at 8. Ya le ha dicho. He has already told her. So we got the has, we got the already, we got the told. So the only word left here is the le, which must mean her. And, I guess it could be he, but remember from the last 2 examples, we saw that it looks to be the case that in Spanish you don't have to say the initial subject pronoun. So we can say that le means her, okay? Now if we look at 6, ya se lo he dicho, okay? So here we know that the lo is it from the last thing. I have already told it to him. Okay, so now we run into something weird because we have this se, which we haven't seen before, and here we have to him. So maybe we can just write down maybe se equals to him. Okay, I'll just put like a question mark there because we're not sure yet. All right, so we have a lot of information from these 4. So now let's go back to the sentences with no. So that's going to be sentence 2, 3, and 7, okay? So all of those use has, so we can't eliminate any options there. But we do know, well, here we see a lo, which we have identified. What else? There's also a lo here. So 2 of the no sentences have lo, and 1 of them doesn't. So let's see. So we're looking for its now. So this one has an it. This one does not have an it, and this one has an it. So that means this sentence number 3, which doesn't have an it, has to be this one, which also doesn't have an it. So no le ha dicho must mean she has not told him, okay? So ignoring the she because initial subject pronouns don't matter. Told, and here we have him. So in this case, the le corresponds to him. Now, before we had that le corresponds to her. But if we think about it grammatically, him and her are the same person they're both third person singular, grammatically speaking. So maybe in Spanish, le can mean him and her. And that does happen to be the case. So now let's look at the other two no sentences. No se lo ha dicho, no me lo ha dicho. So what's the only difference? The difference is this me, which is going to be easy for us. So that was sentence 3. So now let's look at sentence 2. Sentence 7, which one has the me? It's obviously sentence 2. So that's going to be sentence 2 right there. So what does this tell us? No me lo ha dicho. So this means has. That means it. That means no or not. That means told. So something has not told me. And that's exactly what we see. He has not told it to me, which is exactly what we would have thought. And then what's the other one? He has not told it to her. So that has to be this one, sentence 7, right? He has not told it to her. So the only thing that may be throwing us off here is this se again, because we saw se before, and we saw that it could mean to him. But here we see the se, which has a possible meaning of to her also. Let's just finish this off. So le he dicho must mean, what's the one we have now, number 4 yet. Does that make sense? I have told him. We know that a means have, that means told, that means either him or her. So that makes sense. So from this exercise, we've learned that a means has, e means have, me means me or myself, le means her or him, lo means it. We're unclear about the se, but we know that it may mean either to him or to her. But if you noticed, le and se have very similar meanings, her, him, him, but se is only used in the sentences that also have lo. So like in this sentence and this sentence, you have se, lo together, right? And it actually turns out that in Spanish, the only reason you don't say lelo is because of, phonology and how it sounds. It just sounds better to say se lo. So actually se and le in this case have the same meaning. It's just that when used with lo, you have to use se instead of le. So I hope you enjoy this little exercise. I want to talk a bit about what this implies for language education and language learning. So hopefully, I hope you would have realized that language requires logical thinking. So what does this mean? This means that for those students who may have gotten into languages to, read literature or for a more arts-related or humanities-related reason, it means that those people still have to have logical thinking skills. So maybe you're really good at some language, but you tend to think of yourself as a humanities person. Well, it means that you actually have pretty good logical thinking skills too. And likewise, that means that people who are into things like math and computer science shouldn't feel that language has nothing to offer them. In fact, this type of exercise that we just did requires the same type of logical thinking as, for example, programming or other math and logic related subjects. The second conclusion that I wanted to talk about is that grammar can be taught in engaging ways. This exercise actually forces the participant to derive the rules of the present perfect tense in Spanish. The present perfect tense in Spanish is usually taught as part of a third-year Spanish course. So it's considered to be a pretty advanced tense, but yet people who absolutely know Spanish can still complete this exercise successfully. So what does that mean? That means that, one, grammar doesn't have to be taught by just spoon-feeding the rules to students. There are many ways to teach grammar so that students are forced to, figure it out for themselves, instead of just giving them a handout which spells out the grammar rules for them. maybe students should be encouraged to figure out their own rules, and then a teacher can intervene and say, oh, this is correct, you did a great job, but you missed this thing right here. That's a much more engaging way of teaching students grammar, especially advanced grammar. And then I also want to bring up the point that a lot of times advanced grammar, or what's thought of advanced grammar, isn't really that advanced. As you saw here, this tense, the present perfect, I have done, you have told, he has gone, this is reserved for third year highly advanced Spanish students, when it's really not that difficult. And many other tenses and grammar patterns, especially with Romance languages, are really not that difficult to learn, but they're saved for, much later on in traditional language education, for who knows why. So that's basically what I want to talk about. I think it's up to language educators to bring out these underappreciated and not often thought of aspects of language learning, such as logical thinking. So that's basically what I want to talk about today. If you want some more related problems, you can check out the North American Computational Linguistics Olympiad, or NACLO, website. They have great problems like this. I wrote this problem myself, but if you want some more challenging ones in different languages, feel free to check out that website. Thanks for watching.